How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Black Metal Rebellion. I'm your host, Jesse Morgan, aka Slammerella, and it has been a fairly review-heavy month this last month, but we have another one to do. This time, it's a little bit more interesting than usual. If I don't get an interview with the manager or the main guy from Ipirana Records, then I might do a follow-up video to this just to kind of explain the interesting story and how this review came about and kind of the interesting information that I've got about Ipirana Records and the Mordicus band that we're going to be talking about today. So yeah, the album that we're going to be talking about today, again, is by the band called Mordicus. They were an old school death metal band out of Finland that started in 1989. Now, prior to the album that we're talking about today, they came out with a whole ton of demos in the early 90s and then came out with this over here, the three-way Dissection EP, which sounds like a split, but it's not. And that was made in 1992. Sort of sounds like the prior demos with maybe slightly more better production and slightly more discernible vocals, but not by much. And then after that, they did a couple more demos and stuff, and then eventually landed on their debut album in 1993 called Dances from Left. I don't know if that means like the left-hand path or the devil's path or something like that, but that wouldn't surprise me. They are a very interesting, like, doomy, grim type of band, and they were doing old school death metal still then too, even though Dances from Left in 1993 was a huge step up from their previous demos and three-way Dissection EP. There was apparently a couple of represses of their debut album Dances from Left and got a lot of traction. So if you are familiar with Mordicus at all, it's probably from the Dances from Left album. It's pretty good old school death metal. Not really my thing. Maybe back when I was more into slam I would have appreciated it more, but even then it's still not the old school death metal that you're expecting that sounds like Possessed or Death or any vocals like that. These ones are more airy, raspy, and like kind of thing. So yeah, after that they produced a couple of promos, and eventually the guys in Mordicus caught the eye of Ipirana Records, and they decided to do a deal with them for a second album, and that was 2000's Disintegration Groove. I might have a picture of the old school album art here on a CD or something, but it is nothing like the one we're going to be talking about today's art. But yeah, so that was the work that they did back in 2000. They recorded it, and it didn't turn out the way that the musicians or Ipirana Records leader really wanted it to, so it was kind of shelved for a bit, and they tried to find a bigger label to help produce it and get more copies made or something like that. But it's sat there in the archives of Ipirana Records since 2000, and now finally in the year 2023 it has been released in a slightly different format. 100 black vinyl only, no digital, no CDs for this release, and the track listing has been trimmed back quite a bit from the original intended release and the ones that you see listed on Metal Encyclopedia and stuff like that. So yeah, if you want a copy of this, you'll have to go to Ipirana Records website and send a message to them and put it in order with them. I think they said it's going to be anywhere between 25 to 30 euros plus shipping. And another thing I should let you guys know about is that Ipirana Records, in order to keep your record safe, they try to get you to order more than just one record so that they can bundle it properly and send it through registered mail, because we all know how records get super fucked up when they travel anywhere across the world, especially with how some of the postal workers just like to whip shit across the factory, stomp on it, drop your shit off the truck. So yeah, if you're gonna go to Ipirana Records and pick up something or put in a request, maybe think about ordering or preparing to order at least more than one 12-inch record. Same goes for CDs and 7 inches, I believe. They try to get you to order more than just one thing, just for the safety of your record and to basically ensure that it gets to you unharmed. All right, so with all that house cleaning and info dump out of the way, the actual release that we're talking about today is Mordicus Rights and Trials from this year, 2023, with the 9-track, 28-minute release. And this isn't old school death metal. This is it is a post-thrash / hardcore, if you really want to call it groove metal, even though groove metal doesn't exist, band. Now, that is more what this album is like. It is more in tune to something like Hatebreed or Vulgar Display of Power by Pantera or Soulfly or Sepultura, or if you know Anders Kolsefny, the ex-singer of Slipknot, his project Painface. Think of Painface, the Fleshcraft album, turned up to 100. Like, it's really heavy and hard and catchy and groovy as shit. So yeah, keep that in mind when thinking about purchasing this release. If you can find some tracks online, you might be able to get an idea. Right now, there's only one video available to watch through Iparano Records on YouTube, I believe. I'll have a link for all the stuff in the description box, so if you're confused or wondering about any of the stuff, just go down there and you'll find it. But let's get on to the members of this project, because we've been delaying a little bit too long. So yes, the members are Robert Warion Arpo on vocals and bass, Jani Wright-Conan on guitar and backing vocals, Isto Janonen on guitar and keyboards, and AP on bass, and finally Heikki Leppäläinen on drums. Any of those names would be super hard to pronounce 3 times fast. So if you're watching this and you're from Finland, my apologies, but that is the best I can do being a Canadian. All right, so let's talk about those vocals, shall we? They, from the tracks that I was able to track down and sample, were mid to high in mix, about on par with the vocals, and the vocals had a similar performance and delivery throughout, with minor changes here and there. They were basically a rough, aggressive, raspy, shouted type of growls, similar to, again, Anders Kolsefny of Painface, Phil Anselmo from Pantera, Hatebreed, Max Cavalera from Soulfly. Those type of vocals are what you're going to be expecting from this specific release. All right, let's move on now to the guitars. These, again, from the tracks that I was able to find, were mid to high in the mix, on par with the vocals volume-wise, and again, great performance overall through all the tracks I heard. The guitars are chunky and just crunchy post-thrash riffs, some energetic palm-muted sections, and some insanely groovy power chords. With this album, it was just lick after lick after lick of head-banging, juicy riffs. Now, talking about the bass, it was low to mid in the mix, just under the guitar. You could mostly hear it in the track Neo Sirius. It had a moment to shine there, so you were like, okay, that's what the bass is sounding like. Now I can hear it in the rest of the album. And from what I heard, it was performed pretty well. It was very full and punchy, had a crisp rumble with a pinch of gain. All right, lastly, let's talk about the drums. They were mid to high in the mix, really well balanced in the EQ, very nice, very clear, very discernible. The drummer gave a great performance throughout and had good timing. The drums were crisp and had a snappy snare sound, very punchy low double kicks, and had generally energetic and bombastic beats, good fills, and great tom work. Alright, let's move on to my favorite tracks. Alright, starting off with some honorable mentions. The very first track, Rights and Trials, the self-titled track itself, was a great lead-in to what to expect for this album. I believe it's the video that's available for this album as kind of a preview. Don't let the video kind of sway your opinion on this, because when I first watched that video and listened to the song, it wasn't really my thing at first either. but listening to the tracks online and the rest of the album gave me a huge new appreciation for this. So believe me when I tell you, the real recordings for this and the rest of the songs on this album are really what's going to sell it. But if you do need a proper visualization for what you're getting into, they do have the Rights and Trials video on the Ipirano Records site and YouTube channel. Besides the very first self-titled song, track number 8, Babylon, was great. Same with Black Tide. Both are totally up there in the running for really good songs off the album. I wish I had more time to talk about them, but we're going to get into my 3 favorite tracks off of this album, that being track number 3, starting off with Lifestyle. It has a super bouncy beginning. It's very catchy. It's a great example of what to expect of the album's overall sound, and has a pretty cool solo, not too long, but at the 2-minute and 27-second mark. Alright, moving on to another favorite track of this album. That is track number 4, So You Should Care, aka Atlanta's Race. That's kind of neat. Are they talking about the sunken city of Atlanta? Cool. Aquaman song. But no, that's probably not what they're talking about. Anywho, track number 4, this has another excellent main riff throughout the track. It's very quick and snappy and has a crazy and catchy bombastic middle track section in this song that really digs in and gets you headbanging. And moving quickly on to my last favorite song on this album, which is track number 7, Neo Serious. You may remember that I mentioned that has the little bass section that pops out and goes, "Hey, I'm the bass. Check me out." That's this song. This song's also very grimy and angry, has a lot of kick you in the teeth riffs back to back, and then at the 2-minute and 40-second mark, it slows down and gives you some nice bass again and some kind of trippy vocal parts too. So yeah, lots of good tracks on this. I also want to talk about the tracks again in a little bit. Let's move on to my overall thoughts first. If you're a fan of Sepultura or Soulfly, there's no reason you will not love this album. It even has a song called Babylon, for God's sakes, if you needed any further convincing. Mordicus brings so many insanely bouncy, bombastic, catchy riffs. Your neck might just snap clean off from all the headbanging you're going to be doing listening to this album. Rites and Rituals is such a hidden gem. It needs to be discovered now. It's sad that this did not actually get a proper release back in 2000, because that would have been the perfect era to release something so bombastic and heavy like this. Sepultura, Korn, Hatebreed, Pantera, all those types of groovy post-thrash type of almost nu metal bands would have been perfectly accepting of these guys on tour for sure. It would have been a staple in any post-thrash or nu metal or hardcore fans' discography. Alright, now let's move on to some of the weaknesses and improvements that I noticed on this album. Now, this may be silly, but this album did not have enough tracks on it. Again, it's at the 28-minute mark, at least this Rights and Trials release. I believe the original Disintegration Groove release would have had 45 minutes worth of material. Yeah, the songs on this are just like chips, and I need all of them. The 9 tracks we get is almost a tease. I feel like if Ipirano Records had the money or the will to do so, I feel like they should release the 6 tracks that didn't make it onto this album into an EP at least. Maybe even call it Reintegration Groove, because of the name of the last track being Reintegration. I think that'd be a funny little callback to it, and fans of this era of the project could get all of the songs, even if they were deemed not so great by the band or label. I did listen to those songs and they were fantastic in my opinion. Like, the tracks that didn't make it on this were Border Devil, Saturday Night, Search No Integrity, Ritual Despise, Ignore, and Reintegration. So that's 6 tracks right there that could have its place on a separate EP if someone wanted it, or a fan of the project that liked that era wanted it. Ipirano Records, if you're watching this, please consider it. Or Mordicus, if you're watching this, convince Ipirano Records or someone to try and make that happen, because again, I like those 6 tracks that didn't make it on the Rights and Trials vinyl that's come out this year. Or even if you're needing to wait until all of the black vinyl sell, all the 100 copies sell, at least release it after this, because we need more hardcore post-thrash Mordicus. That is the best Mordicus in my opinion. And with all that being said, I'm giving Mordicus Rites and Trials a solid 8.5 out of 10. I was not expecting to enjoy this album or project as much as I did, especially after just getting a quick sneak peek at the Rites and Trials video. The more I listen to this, the more I am solid in my opinion that it needs another release after the 100 Black vinyl sell out. Either the 6 tracks that got left off of this on digital or CD in an EP of sorts, or another remastered on CD, maybe reintegration grooves release. I don't know, but I just want more of this project's songs because those 9 are definitely not enough for me. It's really, really good. If I can't get an interview with G from Ipirama Records, then I will definitely be doing a spin-off video talking more about them and the Mordicus project after this, because there's just so much to say about this interesting project and label. So that's it. I'm Jesse Morgan, and I would buy this album. I'm going to try and save up some money and ask for the label to hold me a copy if they can, because I definitely need some sort of physical format of the Mordicus Rites and Trials album in my life. It is so good, and you definitely don't want to miss out on this. If you're into Soulfly, Sepultura, Pantera, Hatebreed, Anders Kulsefni's projects like Painface or anything like that, this is going to be something that you'll kick yourself for not getting a copy of. Trust me. With that being said, thanks for watching. I appreciate it as always. Maybe like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. For Glory, for the Rebellion, Slammerella out.